Project Sapient is a podcast meant to engage our brothers and sisters in the law enforcement and military communities in conversations that we all know we need to have. All opinions you'll hear are our own, are protected by our First Amendment of the United States Constitution, and in no way reflect or are meant to reflect the opinion of any specific agency, officer, or service member. Some opinions may be controversial. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy.
That's some heavy shit for you, buddy.
Hell yeah.
I know you like it.
I do.
Fucking Project Sapient, guys. I want to say thanks to our thousands of listeners around the world. Thanks to our supporters, DCD Automotive, Till Valhalla, AAA Police Supply, HAVOK Journal, the partners at Profiles and HAVOK, Fit Cops, 22 Mohawks. There's a lot more on our website. I don't even know if that's up yet, but it'll be up. Don't worry about it. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Ivan's on LinkedIn, too. Forgot about
LinkedIn.
We keep forgetting about that.
I know.
Ivan, I got to tell you, we've been having some pretty awesome guests. We just finished recording another one with an awesome guest.
Yeah, you guys have probably already listened to it by the time this one comes out. But
Fucking super pumped, man.
Yeah.
But we got a really good episode today. I'm sharing a lot of information.
Yeah, today, so I've been doing a lot of the force science research because I'm doing the advanced analyst course.
Weren't we advanced?
Because, I'm trying to get educated and all that good stuff. They put out some, these are doctors, these are professionals in their experts in their fields of neurology, movement science, human performance, you name it, they have it. And they do tons of research in terms when it comes to use of force, officers involved shootings, stuff like that. And this one that, we did a little while ago, this one research that they conducted, very interesting, I found, and you guys are about to find out why. So this is the title of the research paper. So it starts off, ambushes leading cause of officer fatalities when every second counts, and it's the analysis of officer movement from trained, ready tactical positions.
There's a whole lot of shit going on there, dude.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So we know that ambushes have increased substantially, and these assaults, they happen very quickly, and sometimes officers are not prepared for it, or most times officers are not prepared for it because it's the nature of an ambush.
Yep.
And what they ended up doing was they wanted to do a study to test the various tactical techniques when the officer, for them, it is important to understand the speed of officer responses and any advantages officers may gain from various tactical techniques. So the purpose of this study that they did was to understand and examine officer movement times from various finger indexing positions.
Giggity.
Yeah. And which we understand, if for those who don't understand finger indexing, that basically means whether your finger is off the trigger, along the rail, or what have you. So they did various different tactical positions. So they did about 4 different experiments. Now, this is the first of its kind that they did. So the data is not 100% quantified just yet. They're still working on it.
Well, look, and we want to explain this to even our listeners and our civilian listeners, right? Combat has been studied for thousands upon thousands of years, right?
Yep.
In every generation, there's been science.
Yep.
There's been experts of the time.
Yep.
And science, just like medicine, is a practice.
Yep.
We're not going to get to solving something unless we start with
a study. Yeah, exactly.
And expand on it and keep going.
Exactly.
A lot of these, who is Lewinsky?
Dr. Lewinsky, who runs Force Science, he's like the head guy.
I'm sure that Lewinsky and Disterheft and Bushy and Dix realize...
all doctors, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure they realize that this is fluid.
Yeah.
Things in science can change. There's very few laws.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, the laws of science are very interesting.
But we don't get to improve on ourselves in our profession.
Yep.
Unless we take a look at stuff like this.
Exactly. And that's the thing, what I like about them is they go for the minute movement.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, human performance. It's
Right.
all about the fine gross motor skills, your eye movement, your inattentive blindness, your everything. They factor everything holistically, like we always talk about. It's the holistic approach.
I want to throw myself into one of their studies so I can just fuck it up. They'll be like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
Oh, I'm sure. Listen, they bring in like over 200 officers from their area, and I'm sure one of them did something like some sort of backflip, and they're like, you know what, you're out. We don't know what the fuck that happened.
Well, no, like I want to get into like even. You know how you were saying it in one of the shows last time, they even take into account like your diet and your sleep and all that stuff. Like I want me after a 48-hour shift of eating like shit.
Hey, this is Hot Dog Pete. All I've been eating is hot dogs for 48 hours.
Go in there with fucking hypertension.
Hot dog farts.
They'll be like, we can't do this study.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what? No, they should, and I'm sure they do in the study. They're not going to bring in the cop that's in tip-top shape.
No, they bring everybody. They want
that's amazing.
Cops from every walks of life, because that's, to them, again, that is quantifiable, that is measured, because if you only take the tip-top officer to do these studies, well, the numbers aren't going to be
They're going to be skewed.
They're going to be skewed.
Yeah.
So they want to test everybody. So
get into it, bro. Yeah.
So this research they did was back in 2015. So some of the stats are a little dated, but still relevant to this day. So here's the thing, right? The International Association Chiefs of Police has brought attention to the threat of ambush assaults. An ambush assault is considered to be an attack on an officer that contains the element of surprise, concealment of the assailant, the suddenness to the attack, and the lack of provocation. So this is a study that was done by the FBI from 2003 to 2012. 115 officers were killed and 267 officers were injured as a result of these types of attacks, these types of ambushes. Okay, while the ambush assaults may be premeditated, according to LEOCA, which is a law enforcement officers killed and assaulted report, over 68% of the ambushes that have occurred since 1990 have been spontaneous and unprovoked.
That's a high number.
68%. Wow. Unprovoked. That means the cop didn't say go fuck yourself and whatever. It was
just sitting there.
Sitting there, whether it's an FIO, talking back and forth, and all of a sudden the guy sucker punches him or something.
Let me ask you a question. Does it articulate whether, because that's very open-ended, is it unprovoked, meaning he's sitting in his cruiser reading a newspaper, or FIOing and engaging in contact?
All.
So it's all combined. Okay.
All combined. Okay. All combined. Listen, you're getting ahead of yourself.
Why? I'm asking questions.
Going through yet. All right?
My job is to ask questions.
All right there, Lemonhead.
You're a dick.
So they go on to say, although 35% of cases officers were attacked with an assailant's hands, in over 36% of ambush assaults, officers were attacked with a firearm, greatly increasing injury or death and rapidly increasing the speed at which the attack occurs. Alarmingly, the survival rate of officers caught an ambush situation is only 46%, the survival rate, which you know why. They aim for our heads now. Yeah. They know we're wearing ballistic vests, so they go straight for the head. With such a low survival rate, the threat of officers being hunted and attacked without notice gives one more of many reasons to emphasize the need for officers to be tactically ready, aware at all times, and be able to effectively respond. So here's the thing. They go into a lot, and here's some science, right? Here's science that they've done over and over. And you're not talking like maybe they did 2 or 3 things. Now these guys research videos. They go frame by frame, they dissect videos, then they retest. And again, they're scientists. They're retesting their hypothesis and all that stuff. Here's the thing. So, analysis of deadly traffic stops has demonstrated that a suspect in the driver's seat can draw a weapon and fire at an officer in as little as 0.023 milliseconds.
That's insanity.
With an average time of 0.53. So between
seconds, it's a half a second and a quarter of a second.
Exactly. Research examining sprinting mechanics has shown the average individual in their early 20s is able to cover a distance greater than 15 feet in just over 1 second and slash and stab an officer with an edged weapon.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? I actually brought up the 21 foot rule. They actually laughed about it. They said that wasn't actually a rule. That was misinterpreted during.
What do you mean?
So the officer who actually talked about the 21 foot rule, he didn't want it to be a rule. He was just saying that within that 21 foot critical gap, the officer has very, like, as smaller as gets, as the distance closes, the officer has less time to react to it. So it wasn't a 21 foot rule.
Right.
It was just, he was talking more on
trying to make people aware.
Yeah, it was more on the human performance side, right, that at 21 feet and greater, the officer is more likely to be able to respond, quickly and effectively. Anything within 21 feet, the officer is less likely to be able to draw their firearm.
Yeah, and within every foot that gets closer to you, that's time.
Less time.
Yeah.
So, here's the thing, 15 feet in just a second.
That's crazy. People don't understand that.
That's the thing. And this is a young guy in their 20s, right? So if an individual attacking an officer had their finger on the trigger of a handgun and the handgun aimed, he or she would be able to fire once in 0.06 seconds. The actual travel time, which is the actual travel time of the trigger to break point.
Yep.
Think about that. 0.0 seconds.
Yep.
0.06 seconds, sorry. 0.06 seconds. And then fire an additional round, another approximate quarter of a second. All the while, an officer is faced with a complex decision-making process comprised of movement pattern recognition and a choice response task that will take an average anywhere from 0.46, which I've talked about this, to 0.70 to begin their response.
That's what I just highlighted it so we can repeat it.
Yep.
All the while, an officer faced with a complex decision-making process comprised of movement, pattern recognition, and choice of response. That's what people need to realize.
Yep. And here's not just that. Here's additional time, right? With the addition of movement time to bring the weapon on target and then time to return fire, unprepared officers are immediately placed in a tactical disadvantage during an assault.
Of course.
As officer survival rates during ambushes nearly double when officers take cover and are able to return fire. So it's one of those things where, as officers, that's why we have that hypervigilance, and we have to be ready for anything that happens. There's a great video. I have it. Of an officer who was conducting an FIO, talking to someone. It was like a call for service, whatever it might be. He was outside the guy's house, and they were walking together. Guy, unprovoked, right? Turns around to shoot the officer. He had a gun in his pocket, went to shoot the officer. You could tell the officer was tactically proficient and ready for it, because I'm sure he played a scenario in his head over and over again, mentally prepping for a response. That officer had the flinch response, was able to knock the gun out of the way, and took his gun, boom, boom, boom. Guy fell. His buddy started running towards the officer. Officer pointed the gun. The buddy stopped. The officer didn't fire. That is well-trained officer right
well-conditioned.
there. Well-conditioned officer right there, right? In order for you, as a police officer, it is, and they say this, it's funny, I was about to say it, but they do say this in their study. It is pertinent that the officer be tactically and mentally prepared to respond at the earliest possible moment, along with tactical movement training, early threat detection, and pattern recognition can help ensure officers stay ahead of their reaction curve. That officer, the example I gave you, you could tell he was ready for it. You could tell that he rehearsed a scenario in his head throughout his entire career, just AR'ing the shit out of himself all the time after calls, after whatever. And he was able to beat the shooter by a simple, and here's the thing, here's the bullshit with DT tactics when you're out at the range. Hey, you're at the 3-yard line. All right, push him out of the way and you're going to fire. How about just practice flinch response? It's not about a push. It's not a palm heel. It's nothing. How about you just throw your hands up to block whatever's coming at you and work on that, getting the firearm out of the holster as quickly as possible and shooting as quickly as possible, where you're not waiting to bring it up to the target like a fucking idiot, because that's not going to happen. You're going to start letting rounds flying. Here's the thing.
As you're coming up,
rounds are going.
Right.
You're not going to, like, I love seeing these guys that block, unholster, all the way up, and then fire. I'm like, what are you doing? You're dead.
Call a spade a spade. Half of those guys like to do it just because it looks cool.
Well, that's what it is, because they want the tiny hole. They want they want to make sure that their target is like, silver dollar, and that's
Some of the best shooting I've ever seen, and I'll say it with the rifle because I was very proficient with the rifle, but some of the best shooting I've ever seen with the rifle is guys that didn't care what their how they were holding their rifle looked like.
Yeah.
There was a lot of guys that had fucking amazing stances and a perfect grip and all that stuff. And you were like, wow, those guys are fucking awesome.
But their shooting is shit.
But their shooting was shit. But don't get me wrong. There was a lot that did have fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just trying to say in a very nice way that it doesn't fucking matter. Unless your stance and your grip and all that is affecting your shooting, it doesn't fucking matter.
Here's the thing. We had a cop in my department who had the most awkward shooting platform I've ever seen in my life.
And was he a great shot?
Hundreds.
Yeah.
So even the training lieutenant said, I'm not going to change a single fucking thing he does, because something's right with what he's doing.
Let him keep doing it.
Let him keep doing it.
As long as he can do it under stress and fucking all that.
Exactly.
But that's the point of training.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing where during training, fucking guys, as well as I do, out on the range, they hate it when you call them out and trying to fix their fucking grip or do whatever. And they're like, oh, well, that's the way I've always done it. Well, fuck you then. Yeah, I'm telling you, you're doing it wrong.
You're not going to get the instructor's attention if you're fucking shooting great.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll get the attention, but they won't bother you.
Well, me, I flip it a little. If you're shooting well, you're not trying hard enough.
You're not trying hard enough. Yeah, you're not. Yeah,
that's the thing. So to us, like we say it at SWAT, we train at the range or tactics, whatever. We train at 110%, which means like we are moving, right?
Yep.
When we're shooting. Now, when we hit that wall, right? We're like, oh, my shooting's a little bit getting all over the place. Let's back it to 90%. Okay, we're at 90%. Now let's go back to 100%.
Yep.
We feel good. All right, back to 100. Now back to 110. Find again, the training is all about uncomfortable. If you're training and you're comfortable, you're doing it wrong.
Well, think about the basics. In a situation where you're ambushed or in a shit situation, you're not going to be comfortable.
No, that's the thing. You're not going to call timeout.
Yeah,
hold on. Let me get my gun out.
This is why I hated during, even back to basics, to the academy, where they would do cuffing drills and all that stuff. And the guy would resist just a little bit. And you're like, nobody's going to ever fucking resist like that.
No, fight it out.
Fight it, right. Right. And then when you put the Red Man outfits and shit like that, or I remember my best DT in the academy was when we got sprayed.
Yeah.
And you had to fight an instructor. It was all out.
Here's the thing. My favorite, when I was heavy in the martial arts and I was a cop and I was training all the time. And, I've trained since I was 5th grade in the martial arts. And my best training that my sensei would do is he'd put on the chest pads, and where I punch and the mitts, and it would be 3 3-minute rounds with a 1-minute break. God damn, did he work me? Man, he would grab me by the head, fucking start kneeing me, and I'm really and
he probably wasn't at full force either.
Oh no,
Yeah.
It was enough force that when he smacked me outside the head, I felt it.
It made it real.
It made it real, and that's the thing though, dude, after the first round, I'm like, and he had me with my gun belt. He had me at the time when I was a patrol, hey, put your gun belt on how you would at work. He gave me the right gun to put in the holster.
That's awesome.
That right there is realistic training. That is what should be done.
Little bit of a hint to future trainings coming out.
Yes. Little plug, shameless plug, I'll call it.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. So let's get back into this study a little bit. So it is known that how quickly an officer can fire a gun once his or her finger is on trigger, even when he or she is faced with a complex decision to shoot or not shoot. Unfortunately, one key piece of information that is missing in the analysis of an officer-involved shooting is the amount of time it takes officers to move their weapon from whichever location may be in to a firing position. While officers are taught numerous ready positions and finger indexing positions, little to no research has examined the amount of time it takes officers to react and move from them. Imagine that. There is no research, really. They started the research.
Wait, but is this study only done from outside the holster?
From the holster all the way out.
Wait, what you just said means no, I think that contradicts what you just said.
So it goes from whichever location. So it takes officers to move their weapon from whichever location it may be
into the firing position.
Into a firing position.
I think that's out the holster.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's outside the holster.
Well, again, we're not dogging them. They're doing exceptional work, but they need to get from inside the holster.
Hold on. I'm getting there. They wanted to see their main function for this study only, is finger indexing, and where you put your finger, does that matter?
So they're really aggregating a lot of good data.
Yep. So they're starting. They do have studies, which I'll we'll do that at a later show. They do have studies from when you're at the holster all the way out to shooting. They do have those studies. It's probably in this one too. But first, it could be you just getting ahead.
No. What I'm trying to see, and especially give it out to the guys and girls listening, is that like a lot of the data is being compartmentalized and broken down in a very good way.
I mean, the most minute.
Yeah.
Detail. Where's your finger, and does that matter on the firearm? Does that make you quicker or slower?
Right.
To get your finger on the trigger.
And even when you look at the pictures, it's showing,
Yeah.
Like I never in my mind ever realized that there could have been a wrong way where I was indexing.
Well, here's the thing. So the first most basic position officers learn from their firearms training is where to index or place their finger outside the trigger. Well, when handling their gun to minimize risk of accidental discharges, it is theorized by law enforcement officers that placement of index finger on the handgun has a direct influence on finger movement time. On finger movement time and then the speed of the trigger pull to complete trigger pull completion or weapon discharge time.
So it's really interesting, Ivan. You know why? I've been on for almost fucking 20 years. I've never once been conscious of where I'm indexing. Yeah. Like I'm looking at this right here and it's got, guys, just so you know, it's got 4 pictures on there, right? One's got like the index finger all the way up on the slide, like by the ejection port, right? Mm-hmm. The other one's across the 2, which I think I'm like that. There's another one that's over the trigger guard.
Yep.
You're like, what, this one?
Yeah, I'm like that one.
Yeah. Yep. So I think I'm like that. But there's the thing. Yeah. I don't know. And I don't have my pistol on me right now. I kind of wanted to try it out to see. What's amazing about this is that people listening to this, I'm going to see if we can copy that and post it somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if 90% of cops are aware.
I don't think so. Because here's the thing. They go on to say, based off of author experience, which is Dr. Lewinsky, and observation of law enforcement firearms training, there are 4 finger indexing positions that are predominantly taught and practiced by officers. The index, which we went over, the 4 of them that are on the picture, and while it is argued that by some law enforcement professionals that positions are considered certain positions are considerably faster for shooting, it is speculated that the risk of unintentional discharge may be greatly increased depending on the position, which is interesting, right? So they move on to actually, they do have, looks like they have pictures of the holster, right, where he brings it out. And looks like he unholsters and then
no. I think he's at the tactical ready the entire time.
Okay, tactical ready. Okay, all right. He looks like tactical ready and high ready. It looks like. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
Have you ever seen this?
I've never seen this, but there's a reason why they probably put it there because they probably seen it.
It's a guy literally. Yeah, it's a guy literally holding it up to the roof. But okay, go on.
I'm sure they probably seen it. That's why they included it in their study. So again, it's not like they're making these things up. They went and observed various academies, law enforcement training to see the different positions. So the position officers take when approaching a potentially threatening situation is one of the most arguably influential aspects to the speed of their reaction and their ability to defend themselves. So according to Adams, McTernan, and Remsburg, officers should draw their weapon if they have reason to believe a deadly force situation may occur, as it is implied that drawing from a holster is likely to take the longest time for any of the reactions officers could have, which is true.
Yeah.
Once their weapon is drawn out of the holster, officers are trained to take one of numerous ready positions to tactically prepare for a possible deadly threat, which those are the pictures that they went over. So while it's not, so the high, that's what it is, high guard position. That's what they call that, one all the way up. Commonly used in Hollywood to depict officers approaching threatening situation.
Bruce Willis,
is trained and used in the United Kingdom. Interesting. Okay. The high guard position is generally used as a safer position than high or low ready when officers are surrounded by others. Interesting. Yeah. So they're up here.
That is interesting.
Okay. So that's why they probably include it in their study.
Do you, by just out of curiosity, do you high carry your rifle?
Depends where I'm at.
Okay.
Depends if I'm upstairs and guys downstairs.
Okay.
Right. It depends.
I only learned that. I'll put it to you this way. Talking about training.
Yeah.
And, thinking that you're the shit when you're not, and then learning shit. I was on SWAT for what? A decade? I only learned how to do that differently about 5 years in.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was one, I'm not dogging any of our instructors. It was one of those things where I think we brought on a Navy operator.
That's who does it. It's the Navy.
Yeah.
That's who does it.
And I think he was he was very like, hey guys, I'm not telling you how, but this is maybe a way you should think about it. And we were all like, what?
Here's the thing. So the argument was you're faster from the high ready to shoot.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. They actually did a study on that, which we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Which one's faster?
We'll
that'll be a later time.
Yeah.
So actually it's funny. There's the shotgun right there where they're at the high ready and low ready. So they did it with a shotgun, but, so they go into a lot into how they got some of the numbers. They did 4 different tests. It's pretty complicated with the numbers, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip pretty much to, where their numbers, the graph of the numbers. All right. So now, if you look at the average, right, from contact time to fire time, right, so they're talking position A, which I believe was the tactical ready. So from the moment you contact the trigger to the moment the trigger gets pulled, it's 0.18 milliseconds.
Fire time. Yep.
Fire time, right? B, 0.17 for the fire time. B is the, looks like just over the trigger guard.
Over the trigger guard, but it looks like you're gripping the trigger guard.
Looks like you're gripping. Yep. C is 0.19, which is that right along the rail.
Right.
D is indexing over the top there towards the ejection port.
Yeah, you're finger fucking the ejection port.
Yeah, that's 0.25. And the high ready, 0.25.
Now, it's interesting to note that stuff is with no aim.
Yes.
So you're firing without aiming. Now, this is what blows my mind.
Yeah, ready? To aim, when you're at position A, so finger just outside the trigger guard.
Yeah.
Fire time, by the time you get to the trigger to fire, and actually fire, 0.5, half a second. So you go from 0.18 to half a second. Wow. Isn't that fucking crazy? Yeah, it's because here's the thing, because now you're adding the stimuli in the mind from what the eye sees as the target to now actually, to engage the target takes you about a half a second. B, slightly quicker, where you're gripping the trigger guard. 0.47 milliseconds. Slight quicker.
This blows my mind.
Look at what we do. C.
Yeah, this blows my mind.
0.61 milliseconds.
It's the highest.
It's the highest. It's even higher than fucking the high ready.
Holy shit.
High ready is 0.60.
Talk about taking a cop with 20 years and making him self-conscious a little bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the average, now they did like an overall average for everything, so mostly they were 0.3, 0.26, 0.32, 0.42, 0.39. So at different positions, you were just within just under half a second to a quarter of a second.
Guys, I want to clarify. This is just finger index positions. It's not about your carry.
No.
It's just where your finger
it's not at the holster. Yeah, it's not coming from the holster.
Now, I'm going to be very conscious about this next time I go to the range.
You want to test it because now, because when I saw this, I actually, the next time we go to the range, I want to test that outside the trigger guard versus along the slide.
But seeing this picture, right, guys, it's like a 4-page, 4-picture like graph almost, right? The one where his finger is finger fucking the ejection port. When you look at, that's what, D?
D.
When you look at that, 57, it's doing better than what you would think is the norm.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just right around the other ones too. Well, you would think if you saw somebody doing that, you'd be like, the fuck? But no. Yeah. Oh my God, that is really interesting, Iman.
Yeah, no, I mean, here's the thing. There's another table, and in this research, guys, you can go on forscience.org, and they have so much, .com. They have so much research, and you guys really, as firearms instructors and trainers, and even law enforcement as a whole, you all need to read these studies that they do, because they, as you can tell, they are very thorough.
Wow.
Right? So look at low ready to high ready on the shotgun positions at the bottom. A movement time results for tactical ready positions at the very bottom. So that's you and me talking about high ready, low ready. Which one's faster? Look at the times between both.
You talking about shotgun position here?
So low ready and high ready. The max was 1.35 seconds at the low ready. Minimum was about half a second. High ready, 1.15 to 0.65 is the minimum. So they did an average of, who got the longest to get the trigger going between, and then this is also with the aiming. So they factored both.
Look at how terrible regular port did.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that might answer your question about high ready, low ready, even with the rifle.
Yeah.
I know this is a shotgun, but that might, it
could be very similar.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So hang on position. Ready? From the holster. It's in that table. You were asking about the holster, whether they tested it. They did. Holster. Ready? This is how again, their in-depth analysis. Weapon on target, finger is indexed.
Yeah.
All right. Max 1.36 seconds to 0.25 minimum. All right. For speed. Now, weapon on target. So they're already on the target. They're lasered in, and then they get the command to fire.
Look, they go all the way down to like belts tucked.
Oh yeah. No, even because undercover.
Weapon in bootleg.
Yeah, undercover stuff, right? Weapon on target, finger on trigger. Now you're on the trigger. 0.96, just under a second, to 0.20, much faster because you're on target. You're already lasered, all that stuff. Yeah. Weapon on target, finger indexed, 3-round burst. So you're shooting 1, 2, 3. It goes from 1.43 seconds to 0.15. I mean, you got some fast shooters that do 0.15 in the shoot. So again, but here's the thing: they take elite shooters to basic shooters, and get an average.
There's a clear, consistent number that looks like it's the worst. Weapon in holster snapped.
Yeah, weapon in holster snapped.
That's the longest. It took everything.
2.93 seconds.
Yeah.
And 1.2. So an officer on his best shooter is still a second and a quarter. And what did we say about when the bad guy's sitting in a car to shoot at an officer takes him 0.23 or just
quarter of a second.
Quarter of a second to get that. So you get that, right? And now you got to factor in unsnapping your holster to get your firearm out. You're already behind. So I mean, it's amazing, right?
Dude, I'm floored. I am floored by all this.
Yeah.
We have to include this shit in our trainings.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing, thing to think about. So, I mean, in the end, the primary purpose of this study that they did was to understand and examine movement speed from various holster types and finger indexing positions, as well as how quickly an officer can fire his or her weapon from various starting positions. By better understanding the influence of these factors on the speed at which officers can fire their weapons, officers and law enforcement trainers may be able to improve rapidly response techniques to deadly force situations. That's the thing. I mean, that's the key right there on this type of study, and to really look at law enforcement training. Really look at it. And it's incumbent on all of us to include, from the chiefs on down, to look at these things and see why it happens that way. Like, because again, they go in depth. Like, I'm not going into their in-depth explanations of stuff because it's a lot. It's a lot to digest. And it will be an entire listen. We spend 3-4 hours on Zoom calls during the class just talking about this.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just so complex, but at the same time makes sense.
If it goes back to, remember what we've done an episode on it. You've done articles on it. We were just talking about it with the last guy that we just think about ego. A lot of the times, experts get outdone, and they hate getting outdone by new experts. Yep. Right. And the ego falls into it for a lot of these chiefs and commanders and all that stuff who take their experience and think they're doing the best for their department.
Yep, exactly.
They refuse to look at information like this. And I'm not saying that this information is gospel. It's a part of the gospel, though. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I would think, and you know who we should ask about it is Freddie Leland, because he's a great leader.
Oh, yeah.
I would think that you would want your trainers or your even your deputy chiefs, depending on how the department is structured, to look at this information.
Yes.
And tell your trainers, can you articulate, can you give, any data from our guys as to how it relates to this?
Yeah. Do you think any department has actually tested their officers to see where the average is for unholstering? And
fuck no.
That's the thing.
They care about is recording the range time on the sheet that they can give to City Hall.
Yeah, and you're qualified, not proficient, qualified. And I'm actually working on a new article called is qualification proficiency, which obviously it's not. But I'm going to get into some of those issues in law enforcement where a qual is a qual. To me, a qual is qual. It's bullshit. Yeah. It doesn't tell me shit about what you know and whether you're proficient or not on your firearm. That doesn't tell me shit. And I think I gave you the example, like in the Army, when we get tested on our weapons, it's a set time from the 9mm all the way up to the most whatever our unit has for complex weapons. We're timed to take them apart, put them back together, functions check, all that shit. That is proficiency.
Yeah,
that right there from the basics, right from the very basics. We have guys that went to the academy and they never even got patrol rifle training. When they came back and we had our annual, our biannual quals, we're like, hey, you guys didn't do any rifle training? No, we didn't. Like, what?
Yep. My department still doesn't do it.
I'm like, but for us, like every patrol car has a rifle. Every patrol officer. That's the thing. Every officer, like in my city, every officer has a patrol rifle. But to us, it was like, oh, that's an issue.
I know.
We had to have a separate class just for them, like a 6-hour day of weapon familiarization, learning about the AR and all that shit. But to me, even 6 hours is not enough. I mean, fuck. In the Army, it was 2 weeks of basic rifle marksmanship. 2 weeks.
Bro, I did 10 fucking years of carrying a rifle every day.
Yeah.
And I would shoot 2-3 times a month, and I still was learning.
Even to this day.
I get it. That's an extreme, but...
Yeah, but no, I'm still learning.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. It's a profession that you continually learn. And that's the thing. So today I was in a class, and there was a great... thing that the class the way he started. So it was a criminal procedure constitutional law class, just the updates in the state and in the country.
I got those too.
Yeah. So he was talking about, so he posted or actually showed a YouTube video of this judge. I forgot out of where, but he was basically thanking law. Oh, it was at LAPD. It was at the LAPD Academy getting ready to graduate. So they had a judge talk to the class. And he basically said that, the professional law enforcement has so much education to re-education where you have to keep up with the changes.
Yeah.
To him, he said that law enforcement have to continually train more than doctors, more than some other high-profile professions, because things change for us on a daily, hourly basis, which is 100% accurate. So here's the thing. Why are we not evolving our firearms training? Why are we not evolving our human performance training? Why are we not evolving like that?
Elephant in the room. You want me to tell you why?
All right, go.
Nobody fucking cares.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the obvious.
Nobody cares. Nobody wants to do the work. They just want to go fucking home. Am I wrong?
No, that's the 80-20. That's the 80-20 right there. Here's the thing. Whenever I get to the range, right, I'm about to teach, I'm about to do firearms training, whatever. The fucking first question I get is, hey, what time are we out of here by?
I'll make an admission. Last time I went to the range, I didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know why? Because nobody gave a fuck.
Well, here's the thing. When you only have 4 hours to fucking do training, there's not much I can do with 4 hours.
4 hours? I had like a half an hour. And I remember, and I'm not dogging anybody, but nobody gives a fuck. So that's why I was like, what am I going to give a fuck for?
Yeah.
If I'm going to go be proficient, I'm going to go do it on my own time.
Yeah. No, well, that's the thing. Like for me, I'm fortunate that I'm still on SWAT and I get to shoot all the time. So
different mindset.
Different mindset. And for me, there's even guys on SWAT team that even shoot on their own. Like I told you, we have one of our firearms instructors in SWAT. He's a competitive shooter. He's always shooting. Yeah. And for me, I like going to the range myself on my off time, and I like to throw some rounds down range and practice certain maneuvers and movements and shit like that at the police range. Yeah. Because you know what? I need to keep my shit up. I need to keep, and it also helps me with my weapons check. It makes me make sure that my weapon's functioning properly, because you know what? God forbid that I have some major malfunction down the road because I didn't pick up on something when I was training.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that all this data that we're looking at today, you've obviously read this before I did, has it changed anything that you've done at the range?
Yes. I mean, here's the thing. So our SWAT team as a whole, a bunch of guys did this force science analyst course and some other human performance courses and stuff like that. A lot of our training has now geared towards that.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's actually very interesting now, because even when we do entries, like for example, we did an entry the other day. We had training hostage rescue. We did a dual entry. One of the sides was supposed to be breach and hold. My side was primary. Hostage rescue. Shit went downhill, whatever. So we had to go in. So I was number 2 at the door. Number 1 was my buddy Chris. He was the first one through, got under fire, took down the terrorist, the role player terrorist. So he went down. Now, unbeknownst to us, the team on the other side, the breach and hold team, also came into contact.
Oh.
They shot the guy, except the guy went down, but then got back up and ran into another bedroom. That can't. Here's
very realistic.
That's very realistic, and that scenario was engineered to be that way.
And let me guess, just introduced.
Yeah. So what ended up happening is the breach and hold. They made entry because now they have a terrorist running into a bedroom, unknown if there's a hostage in there. We need to go get him. So the question was, hey, with human performance, what happened there? Like, we were asked that. Yeah. I'm like, God damn, that's a hard question.
Yeah.
Because again, like as well as I do, when you're in that fog of war, that you're in that automatic mode, sort of doing your thing. Now you got to replay, which is very difficult.
Yeah.
Your movements. And now to try to explain it. So they're kind of giving us kind of like to prep the explanation piece for when we launch rounds downrange as to why exactly. What is it that we saw? So another example is I did an entry, training entry. All the information was one suspect, arrest warrant, search warrant, just a typical warrant. No one else, like they made sure there was nothing, no dogs, no kids, no nothing, one suspect, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So easy hit, fucking go get him, and that's it. Hit the door. I was first one through the door. We, flashbang, bang. I go in. The guy has his back to me. So he's facing a desk in front of him. Turns around. He has a knife in his hand. Doesn't walk towards me. Walks diagonal to me. Goes into a bedroom.
Talk about switching it up.
My selection went from safe to fire.
Yeah.
But then when I saw that movement.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no danger. I went back to safe.
Yeah.
Went into the room. I called barricade because there was nobody else.
99. Yeah, it's a barricade.
Barricade subject. Yeah. Done. Okay, index. Iman, why did you call that? I had to think.
Right.
Well, I didn't. And they heard my selector go. They're like, hey, we heard you, your selector go to fire, and then you went back. Why?
Why?
Because there was no danger. He wasn't walking towards me. He was walking diagonal to me. I trained my gun on him. yelling commands, hey, put the knife down, put the knife down, put the knife down, but he just went into a room.
I love the fact that you guys are training that way.
But again, though, that's the training that should have always been done.
Right. Yeah.
Because
100%.
here's the thing. The speed of SWAT, right? These scenarios can like that.
Yeah.
As soon as you make entry, it's like a very fast, dynamic type mission, especially if it's a standard warrant, dynamic entry. We're not using shields. We're just going in after the guy.
Yep.
Everything has to be taken into account from the moment we step off to the moment we hit the door till after. So every little thing we need to analyze on why something happened, which that's what force science is all about with human performance. They not only look at just the shooting. All right, what did the officer do yesterday? Like, let's start there. They don't want to know anything about the case. So when you hire a company like
just
Force
the
Science,
physics.
that's all they want. They don't want to know about the case. They don't want to know about a thing. All they want to see is camera footage, blah, 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 blah. They don't care about anything else. But their main focus is what led up to this. What is the human factors that led up to the shooting?
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You say the human factors.
Yeah.
Why don't they want, and this is just not a suggestion, but I'm shooting the shit with you here. Why don't they want to know about the case? Because, and this is why I say this, you're going after a target that you tell your operators, you're in a gun car or you're in a squad, right? And you tell your operators there's a target. He just went in that house. He's just killed 6 people, 4 kids. I think you're going to respond to that a tiny bit differently than you're going after a target that just pointed a gun at somebody and stole their wallet and ran into that building.
So
what I'm trying to say is the emotional aspect has an effect on your physicality.
So just to kind of elaborate on what they mean by they don't want to know anything about the case, their main focus is that officer. What was he feeling? What was the information he or she had?
But do they get into the feeling?
Oh, they do.
Okay.
It's not.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
So when I say they don't care about the case, they don't want to know at 3 weeks ago we started a narcotics investigation and blah blah blah. Like they don't care about that. They don't want to know.
Got it.
They're not there for the case. They're there for the shooting, and that's it. So they want to know the human factors that led to the shooting, the emotion. What did you eat? How much sleep did you get? Yeah. All the way, because example they gave is like NTSB, right? When they do a airline accident. Yep. They want to know everything the pilot did from the moment they woke up to the moment they got into the plane, from every button they pushed, all the way to when the plane crashed, because they want to know the human factors that led to that unfortunate the end result. So whether it's emotion, whether it was drugs, alcohol, they want to know everything. That way they can do a full comprehensive report, that's what companies like Force Science do, is that's what they want to know. What did that officer have? What did that officer have in his mind? Emotions, whatever, that led to that shooting. And then once that shooting happens, they are going to dissect frame by frame every movement that officer and the suspect did. That it's very in depth.
It shows you. Look at these studies that just blew my mind.
Yeah. It's very, 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 very in depth. And even they admit, here's the thing, they admit, as the current study, so the limitations of the study, as the current study of one of the first investigative studies of its kind, there are limitations that exist in the research. So they even admit, like, listen, this is not 100% right now, because no one has done this type of study before.
Talk about real.
Yeah.
The largest limitation was that not all tests were performed in part 2 due to time constraints within the participating officers' schedules.
Yeah.
Talk about real.
Well, that's the thing. Like, these are peer-reviewed studies by other doctors. So they make sure that here's the thing. Additionally, they write, only one police department was tested for this research in part 2, while the experience and specific training offered by that department may have influenced the abilities of officers. Follow-up investigation with multiple departments may be used to aid in the verification of the results of this study. The lack of information on shooting accuracy in correlation to movement times and information on draw times from specific holsters are also limitations. So they admit to the limitations even.
Yep.
So they're not saying this is 100% the study.
This is real science.
This is real science. This is real deal science.
This isn't fucking pseudo expert on CNN and Fox News giving us their opinions. This is real science.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So that's hopefully your mind got blown and you're not going to be able to sleep tonight.
Well, I'm not sleeping anyway because I'm working. So. You mean I'm not sleeping tomorrow morning when I come home?
Yes.
Wow, man. This is really good shit, dude. Like I said, we got to get everybody involved in this stuff. We're doing our part. We're going to, we're going to be introducing certain things out there, but we got to get, at the very least, chiefs and trainers and everybody involved in this shit.
Yeah. 100%.
God, I love it. Guys, we love you. Thank you for listening to us. Check us out on projectsapient.org. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Thank you for listening to us. Thanks to our supporters. Thanks to our listeners. We love you. Stay safe.
Stay sapient.